Welcome everyone, this is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about the 3 areas to have effective relationships. I'm sure you are familiar with relationships and the love language and knowing what your partner wants and being able to read their minds. There's a whole list of things that go on with relationships, right? Are you the right zodiac? Are you compatible? You got the right numbers or whatever they are. There's going to be a lot of, I guess you can say, outside stuff that are going to determine if you are already compatible. If we look at astronomy or just, again, matchmaking systems and finding similar patterns, yes, you might find a good person, a good match that way, but it's even simpler than that. The only thing you have to do is understand your values and find someone with those values. It doesn't have to be, well, they're this tall, they're that. I mean, we can look at the superficial things all day long. You can get them too. I talk about it in one of my episodes or blogs where we're talking about how you have 10 points, right? Every person gets 10 points. And I do this with all of my relationship coaching clients, right? You have 10 points for your partner. Whether you're married, together, divorced, whatever, it doesn't matter about the status, right? But your partner gets 10 points. And those 10 points are going to be values, whatever you want to give them, right? So maybe they're handsome or pretty, right? That could be a point. Maybe they're kind and loving and affectionate, right? That could be a point, all right? And you just keep adding points. And what happens once you get 10 points, you're going to find your partner doesn't have all of them, you know? So you're going to say, whoa, my partner doesn't even have all these 10 points. And if you do, you're extremely lucky. Don't let that person go. So understand you only need 6 points, ideally 7, in order to have a good relationship. So that means you can get away with 3 or 4 of your points missing. For example, sometimes one of the points are, I'm looking for someone who is not a smoker or something like that, right? Does your partner smoke? Yes or no? Maybe it is a yes, right? So that might be one of the points. Because that point can be changed in life, right? That's one of the things that are just kind of like, all right, it's an ideal, is what you're looking for in a partner, right? A non-smoker, maybe you want someone who's religious, things like that. All of those things can be changed. You really can't change someone's height, all right? Unless you cut off their legs or something like that, or glue on some popsicle sticks or whatever. I don't know what you're trying to do, but what I can tell you is that there's going to be static things and then there's going to be things that you can change. So the things that we can change, we can put them there, but then understand if your partner doesn't have them, it's not the end of the world. All right. But then you have to make sure it's not your job to make them have that status or, oh, they're a smoker. I want to make sure they're not a smoker, right? I'm going to say, I don't like smoking, things like that, right? They're going to leave you. All right. Because you're just trying to change them, allow them to change themselves. So we talk about that in relationship coaching, and it's a whole process more than just what I said there. But that was just kind of like an intro for people to begin the process. I have a blog, I have a video on it. I think the full scope of the 10 thing when the values and systems and belief, I talk about that a little bit deeper. But today we're talking about 3 effective areas in every relationship. These effective areas are going to create a balance and a synergy in the relationship, and it's important that you have it. Because if you don't have it, you're going to have a lot of issues coming up in your relationship. Maybe you're going to listen to these today and you're going to say, well, how are these related to my relationship? And today we're going to be talking about that and jump into my most recent blog, the 3 steps to effective relationships. All right, everyone, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share the video and or audio. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button or that like button. Now, what we are looking at is we are looking at the factors for these 3 effective areas of relationship. And I'm not going to hold you hostage. I'm going to tell you what those 3 areas are, because even if I tell you, you won't even know what they mean. The 3 areas for effective relationship are number 1, self, number 2, family, and number 3, career. Now, before I get into the blog, I want to say something. And that something is this blog is basically a tune-up series, a TUS, right? So the TUS is going to be for people who have a good, strong mindset already, who are healthy individuals and are able to follow the instructions here to a T. I give some instruction in the beginning, but the instruction is not direct instruction. It's a guideline. And then I talk about my own circumstance. And then, of course, that's going to leave up the interpretation to you, how it is in your relationship, because I don't know you, right? So you're going to listen to this. You're going to say, well, where are you on the spectrum of self, family, and career? Where is your partner on the spectrum of self, family, and career? you might find that you're both even, right? Both of you guys are number 1 in self, number 2 in family, and number 3 in career. You might find that someone is maybe focused on family more than career and then self. You might find someone is focused on career, then self, and then family. Depending on the individual, right, there can be different, I guess you can say, orders to how a person is going to be. The order doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is the balance, okay? So for example, if you have 2 people in a relationship with career as their number 1 focus, not saying it can't work. It's just that you're going to have a lot more difficulties because you're going to have that career busy-minded type of personality, right? Or mindset. Having a career is a good thing, but making your career number 1 can be detrimental to your health, to your happiness, etc., etc. For example, let's look at feminism, right? Feminism is saying, go out, get your career, you don't need a man. Now, the needing a man aspect is not necessarily a man, right? Because you need a man in order to start a family, unless you are going to adopt a dog or a cat or an orphan or something like that. Or you're just going to have the same-sex marriage or same-sex relationship, okay? You don't need a man, right? Of course there. But the family aspect, starting a community of people. Now, the family can be a cat and a dog. It could be if you want it to be. It could be a partner, etc., etc. For the sake of the blog, right? And for the sake of argument, we are talking about just a male and a female. That's it. All right? This is the 2 genders, male and a female. So we are talking about how if one person has a career focus, can the other person have a career focus? Yes. Be it you don't have family. Because if you don't have family, you're going to have to figure out, well, what you're going to do about that. And then number 1 is the self, and that's an easy aspect. We're going to be talking about that. I'm going to be breaking down each one in just a moment. But just understand that self can be moved in different places. It doesn't necessarily matter where self is. But self does shine in the number 1 spot, all right? I know it says 1, 2, 3 here, but that is just the order we talk about the areas in, so you can easily understand, okay, well, we're talking about self for number 1, number 2, we're talking about family, and then number 3, we're talking about career, right? It just makes it easy for writing and then reading, of course, too. These have no numbers. You get to choose what number you give it, and then you can even alternate and you can change and see which one you like and prefer. So we're going to be talking about these 3 areas, breaking it down, and then understanding about them. Because if we are living in a relationship right now, and we're not finding balance in these 3 areas, what type of problems can it cause? So you probably can already figure out that if you are busy with your career, you might not have time for each other, right? You're going to be focused on your career. You're not going to be worried about the other individual, so you're just career focused. And there's nothing wrong with being career focused, right? I'm extremely career focused, and I have been career focused for probably the past 10 years. Should my relationship suffer because I'm career focused? No, right? I should learn some type of balance there too, right? So we can create balance and still have a career focus. I want people to understand that before they're like, well, I have my career focus and I have a happy, healthy relationship and marriage and we have all these kids and everything is going good. Okay. How much do you weigh? When's the last time you went to the gym? Of course, there's going to be a couple of you, right? 10% maybe. Or be like, yeah, I go to the gym 5 days out of the week or 3 days out of the week. I'm in good shape. I went to the doctor. The doctor gave me a clean bill of health. You could be in a really good spot. When's the last time you went to your kid's recital or your kid's open house? Oh, that's not my job. That's my wife's job. Oh, okay. Now we're hitting home, huh? Now we're learning about the 3 different areas that we're in. You can excel in some and you don't have to excel in some, and it's okay, all right? I'm not picking on you or anything. I'm just trying to make it clear and relevant that, hey, there's going to be different numbers for these, okay? There's no problem if family is last. There's no problem if career is last. Heck, if self is last, it doesn't matter either. I talk about in the blog that there is a better one, right? There is one that should be number 1. The reason why it should be number 1 is because we learn how to live in abundance and give from abundance rather than give from scarcity. That's self. If you have a strong self, your family is going to shine and your career is going to shine because you shine. If you are in good health and you're in a good mindset, you can just do more. You have more energy to give. But if you're tapped out every single day because you're coming home burnt out from your career, how can you make energy to go to the gym? And then how can you come home to have energy to deal with the kids, And then, of course, to give attention to the wife or the husband, right? Depending on your circumstance or your situation, it can be very difficult for you to do all three effectively. Not saying that you can't. For the majority of people, they're going to allow one to kind of be a back burner type of mentality. So knowing that, right? Self can be powerful. But how about family, right? Family is typically the purpose that many people give themselves when they have a kid. If I ask any of my guests who have kids that come on the show, to be honest, if I ask anyone in the street, I say, well, what's your purpose in life? If they have kids, they'll say, my kid. Now, I don't know what percent that would be. It might be 5%. It might be 10%. It might be 100%, right? It could vary, right? If you have kids and your focus is your kids. If someone asks me, well, what is my purpose for waking up? It is not my kid. It is the mission I give myself, right? The purpose I give myself. It's not so much of my identity. It's more of I'm giving myself a directive and I would like to do this, right? That's my purpose, right? When I wake up, I want to accomplish something that gets me a little bit closer to getting to my goal, to my mission, to the end goal, right? The finish. Not saying that when I get to that finish line, it's like, oh, everything is done now. Because what I do, and I talk about this on an episode and I talk about it in a blog too, we have to give ourselves a goal behind a goal, right? So my goal might be, well, I want to help 2 billion people. Well, what is my next goal, right? I want to help 2 billion people. What would be my next goal, right? I can keep helping more people, but my next goal might not be about, okay, but I want to help this amount of people. I want to maybe now start a school. I want to start an organization that is going to be there for local communities to lean on and say, okay, well, I'm looking for some growth. I'm looking for some personal development. Where do I get that, or how do I get that? That might be one of my next goals. Now, I might say, well, it's along the path to me reaching 2 billion people, or I can say I just want to impact 2 billion people as a final goal. But then once you get there, what do? Keep on impacting people, number one, most likely. Once you reach your goal, we have a choice. Say we reached it, take a seat, and then relish in the glory, or we say, nice, I reached my goal, right? Let's do more. It's easy for us to get to a point in life and say, well, we got here, right? This is a good thing. But then if we get to a point and we're like, all right, we're here, let's stay here. That's what happens in relationships, right? We get to that goal, right? We're like, all right, we got the house, we got the kids, right? The only thing we have to do now is maintain. If we can maintain, we are going to win. But sometimes life happens. You have to pivot. You have to pivot sometimes. You just can't stay in your same roles sometimes. Because if you are focused on self, family, and maybe career, you have to understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to focus on yourself because you're just so tired and you're just so drained, and your kids are saying they need something, or maybe your kid is sick, or your wife is sick, or your husband is sick, and you're tapped out, right? You can't focus on yourself right now. So self is going to eventually go down to number 3, maybe number 2. You're just going to focus on family, number 1, right? Importance. So family right now is important to me, right? Everyone's sick. I have to take care of them. So it changes. Boom. Family went up. When your partner is sick, right? Family might be their number 1 spot still in their mind, but they don't have the energy to do anything, right? They're coughing, they're sneezing, they got a high fever, they feel dizzy. They need to put self for number 1. So now we have one partner who's taking care of the family, one person who has self as number 2, and career might be number 3 for both of them, because they're understanding that self and family are very important at that moment in time. But maybe you want to take care of the family. So you said, well, I'm going to do career first so I can have enough money so my partner doesn't have to worry about taking care of themselves, right? So I'm going to focus on my career, and then I'm going to focus on the family, and then I'm going to focus on myself because I'm already in abundance. How long does that last, right? Eventually you're going to burn out. So you need to make sure that at some point you pivot back to self being number 1 or self number 2. So there is a balance that we do have to understand. Sometimes you can easily have the perfect balance, and you just in the relationship, and the balance is, all right, both people are self. One person has career number 2 and one person has career number 3, family number 2, family number 3, right? Just one person has either or. That would be the most ideal. Now, just because it's the most ideal, it doesn't mean that it's the only effective strategy, because you can have 2 people who have careers in their relationship, and you can delegate the family aspect to someone else, right? Grandma or grandpa. That's why we have them. Grandma and grandpa are great family supports for a relationship. Not saying that we don't focus on our communication with each other in their relationship. So your husband and wife, you need to continue to communicate. Don't just say, well, grandma and grandpa are taking care of the kids. I don't have to worry about family. You still have an aspect of family. It's just that you don't have to show up as much. So if you just think of everything as a descending percent. So for example, number 1 is going to be 50%, number 2 is going to be 30%, and number 3 is going to be 20%. So you're going to be looking at that and you're going to say, well, as long as I'm understanding the percent, right? You're not going to want to just focus on career only and then you're at 20%, or you're going to be focusing on family and career and you should be focusing on self if that's your number 1 or should be number 1. Then you're going to be like, well, I'm only at 50%. But if you're always doing your number 1 to at least 50%, you're going to find yourself in a better place mentally. So if you're in a better place mentally, then you're going to say, well, now I'm good. I don't have to worry about finances, because if we look at finances, it's the number 1 reason for divorce. Next is infidelity or the loss of love. So the 3 areas of effective relationships might not be about your love language and your zodiac sign and all of these other quizzes to see if you guys are good matches and things like that. Can you balance out life? This is life right here. Self, family, and career. That's all what life is. All right. It's something in there. All right. Living, that could be self, right? Traveling, right? Are you going to do it with family or going to do it by yourself? Is it a work travel type of thing? That's career. Everything can be put into these 3 realms. So we have to ask ourselves whether it be positive or negative is going in one of these areas. All right. So if you're an alcoholic, that's self. All right. And now it's going to affect your career and family too, but understand it's affecting you more. Now you might not see that, right? You might not see it in the heat of it. But understand that self is very powerful. Family can be very powerful and career can be powerful too. Especially if you're your own boss, your own CEO, you're going to have that mentality. We have fallen into a world where we have to have 2 people who are career orientated in order to make ends meet, because high cost of living, inflation, etc. People have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Both parents have to work. And then again, that family aspect is going to go into a friend, daycare, a school, a babysitter, again, a family member, grandma, grandpa. That is going to be something that we might put on the back burner so we can focus on career. And then we worry about self whenever we can. The issue with not focusing on self sooner than later is that you're going to hit burnout and you're going to find yourself just taking less action. This happens quite a bit in relationships. You don't even realize how much you lose when you don't have your own life. There's an idea called codependency. That means you should be able to live your own life, yourself, your friends, your life. But if you're just focused on family and career and you don't have a life outside of the relationship, you might suffer there too. So there's just so much different factors in each of the different areas of the 3 effective areas of a relationship that we have to understand and that we do have to dissect. And this is what I work with individuals on, because if we don't look at these areas and start to break those down, we're going to have some discrepancies later in life. Because if you have 2 people focused on career and one person feels like they're not getting enough, then something needs to shift. All right. Especially if you have a kid and you're seeing your kid and they're suffering and they're crying and there's all these issues, right? We need to focus on that too, right? And if you look at the stages of development, we're going to be talking about that. If not, I already talked about it, but we're going to continue to be talking about that because it's so important. The conversation is so important to give our kids what they need in order to thrive and survive. So just taking a look again, the 3 areas for effective relationships are going to be number 1, self, number 2, family, and number 3, career. There is no order, understand that, but we are going to be talking about it in that order. And then understand that this blog is going to be offering you a different perspective on each of the areas, breaking each area down, and then also giving you a look at my own life. Now, again, this is a long article, right? This should be a tune-up series, but it's not. So that means you have to have a strong mindset in order to read this. And when I was writing this article, I was like, man, I think I wrote a page or 2 pages, and I was like, this is going to be a long one because there's no way for me to explain everything the way I explained it without writing a whole book. And it's difficult to just write an article for you or just to do a short podcast episode for you and to say, well, this is all the content in here, right? So in the Monday episodes, we talk about the blogs. What I speak about is only a fraction of what the blog is going to give you. So I encourage you to read the blog too. So when you get to the blog, you read the blog, you're like, cool, now I have this knowledge, right? I have this wisdom. And you might be totally confused if you have a weak mindset and you're like, whoa, this is like not working out for me. Because this is like a tune-up series level type of reading. And if you don't have the mindset to handle it, you're going to find yourself like, oh man, I got a lot to do. I wanted to get this out so people can understand that this is important. These 3 areas are important. Because if we just focus on the relationship for just learning the basics, making sure you have the same values and making sure that you guys, know each other's love language, right? Everyone knows about that, right? No one talks about this. No one talks about the idea of self, family, and career and then understanding how to balance it. Yes, it might be one of those vague conversations, but the majority of people are not going to be talking about this because we live in a career-centric world. Family is last. Family has become last. And it's not a problem if someone in the relationship is putting family first. Maybe even second, you can get away with it. And it's not a problem if someone is putting family first or second. But if both people are putting family last, the family suffers. What's going to suffer? And not saying that the third place always suffers, just our focus. If you have 2 people who have career as their number 3, they could be making some money, but then they might also have financial woes. So it just depends on the individual and their situation. So that's why I said early on in the episode, there's going to be so many varieties because your situation is going to be unique to you. So you have to understand your situation and then understand each different area, right? Understand the area of self, understand the area of family, understand the area of career. And what does that entail? And then what do you do about it? Because if you're just living in one world and you're not even focusing on the other worlds are going to suffer at some point. All right. There's going to be a breaking point. So we need to learn how to at least dabble in them, pivot when we have to, and then change if something is not working. If you find yourself burned out at work, fall in love with self and fall in love with family again. You're going to find yourself re-energized. It's not so much going home and going to sleep and doing career again the next day. Yes, I know that's what people do, but it doesn't mean it's effective. How can we be more effective in our day? How can we be more effective in our relationships? All of that is going to stem from these 3 areas. And I encourage everyone to read this blog, and I encourage everyone to check in with your partner, check in with your person that you're working with toward your goals and your dreams and your life together. Ask them, well, which one is number 1 for you? Which one is number 2? And which one is number 3? And then talk about times when you don't think that was true. For example, they might say career is number 1, but then you can talk about, well, you remember last year, and I know last year is kind of like joking around, but we want to just bring it up to them saying, do you think that, remember in last year, you were focused on your schoolwork and then you were focused on your family because your grandma was sick and then we didn't have a lot of time. Do you agree that you were focused on career, self, and family, or maybe family and self? And then allow them to answer you, right? And then you can get a good understanding of how they view these areas. Because again, there's multiple facets in different areas, okay? There's multiple roles in every single area because there's only 3, but there's so much in life. So you might not find the perfect mix or the perfect match, but understand that those 3, if you can find a balance and you understand when you switch from them, right? When you make that shift and you're like, boom, I made that shift. Is it a good shift? Is it the shift that is necessary right now? Because a lot of people are not shifting quick enough. That's when we hit the crazy cycle. That's when communication breaks down. And that's when all the problems start to come up. So let's learn how to be effective. Let's learn how to take action. And let's learn how to have the best relationships possible. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.